Learn money before money starts making your decisions for you. Most men do not lose their freedom because they are broke. They lose it because they do not understand what money is doing to them. They earn, spend, borrow, panic, recover, and call it life. But every unpaid debt, every empty account, every impulsive purchase becomes a quiet command over their future. The false belief is that money is only about income. It is not. Income enters. Wealth remains. Cash flow reveals discipline. Debt sells tomorrow's labor before tomorrow arrives. But the counter-trap is worshipping money like it makes you powerful. It does not. Money without literacy only gives a reckless man more ways to expose himself. Financial literacy is where you stop begging life for permission and start building options, protection, leverage, and command. But here is the question most men never ask. Why does one man earn money and become freer, while another earns more money and becomes more trapped? The answer is not intelligence. It is not luck. It is not motivation. It is structure. This matters more for the unsupported man than for anyone else. A man with family money can survive confusion for a while. A man with powerful friends can sometimes be rescued by access. A man with inherited safety can make mistakes and still land on something soft. But if you are building alone, if no one is coming to cover your rent, defend your dream, pay your debt, open the door, or explain your ambition to the world, then financial ignorance is not a weakness. It is exposure. Machiavelli understood this in politics. He wrote that power needs good laws and good arms. In your personal life, the law is your financial system. The arms are your savings, your skills, your cash flow, and your options. Without them, you are unarmed in a world that does not negotiate with weak men. Look at Warren Buffett. He did not begin with billionaire status. He began as a boy obsessed with numbers, markets, and money behavior. At age 11, he bought 3 shares of Citi Service Preferred at $38 per share. That detail matters because the first proof was not wealth. The first proof was literacy. He was learning the behavior of money before he had enough money to impress anyone. He did not treat money like emotional fuel. He treated it like a machine. He studied what it did, how it moved, how patience changed outcomes, how small capital could become large capital when time and discipline were allowed to work. That is the power lesson. The man who understands compounding before he has much money becomes dangerous later because time starts working for him before the crowd even wakes up. Now look at Jeff Bezos. He had a high status, Wall Street career, but he saw the internet changing the terrain. HistoryLink records that he left a Wall Street investment firm in 1994 to start Amazon in Seattle, and Amazon launched in 1995 with $12,000 in book sales in its first week. That was not random courage. That was financial literacy applied to opportunity. He saw risk. He saw timing. He saw demand. He saw cash flow. He saw asymmetric upside before the herd understood the game. He did not chase comfort. He built optionality. The first proof was not a billion-dollar empire. The first proof was a working online bookstore with real customers. That is what most men miss. They want the final empire before they build the first proof. They want respect before evidence. They want freedom before structure. They want people to believe in what they have not yet disciplined into reality. So the hidden mechanism is this: money does not make you powerful. Money obeys the man who already has rules. But if money obeys rules, what happens to the man who has none? He becomes predictable. He receives money, and his impulses spend it before his future can use it. He gets paid on Friday, feels powerful for 2 days, then returns to anxiety by Wednesday. He borrows to look stable. He uses credit to protect an image. He calls it treating himself when really he is negotiating with shame. This is why financial ignorance is not harmless. Research by Anna Maria Lusardi and Peter Tufano found that people with lower debt literacy tend to use higher cost borrowing and incur higher fees. That is not theory. That is tribute. The financially uneducated man pays tribute to banks, lenders, fees, interest, penalties, scams, and bad decisions. Every month, money leaves his life because he never learned how the battlefield works. Even official beginner frameworks reduce financial literacy to practical domains. Earn, save and invest, protect, spend, borrow. Not manifest, not hope, not fake abundance. Not pretending money does not matter because admitting that it matters feels uncomfortable. Earn, keep, grow, protect, command. If you do not understand this, you lose more than money. You lose time, you lose calm, you lose negotiation power. You lose the ability to leave bad rooms. You lose the ability to say no. You lose the ability to pause before pressure turns into surrender. You lose status because the world may not see your bank account, but it sees the symptoms of financial weakness. Desperation, overwork, fear, poor posture in negotiations. The silent panic of a man with no options. Machiavelli warned that men judge generally more by the eye. They judge signals. And financial chaos leaks signals everywhere. A man may never show anyone his balance, but people can still sense when he cannot leave. Employers sense it when he accepts disrespect because rent is waiting. Friends sense it when he always talks about ambition, but never has enough control to make a move. Family senses it when every emergency pulls him back into dependence. Women sense it when his confidence vanishes the moment money enters the conversation. The world reads pressure. The world reads options. The world reads whether a man can afford to walk away. The broke man does not only suffer privately, he gets read publicly. So how does a beginner stop being owned? He learns the 8 laws. Law 1. Money is a tool of options. Money is not luxury first. Money is the ability to say no to a disrespectful employer. No to friends who only respect you when you are available. No to panic decisions. No to staying in a city, relationship, job, or environment because you cannot afford movement. The beginner thinks money is for buying things. The strategist knows money is for buying options. This is where many men misunderstand freedom. They think freedom is buying what they want the moment they want it. That is not freedom. That is impulse with a receipt. Freedom is being able to refuse what weakens you. Freedom is being able to leave when staying would corrupt you. Freedom is being able to wait instead of accepting the first bad offer because your account is empty and your nerves are exposed. A man with options has a different nervous system. He does not beg. He evaluates. He does not chase every opportunity. He chooses. He does not stay because he is trapped. He stays because it serves the plan. This is why money changes posture before it changes lifestyle. A man with a reserve speaks differently. He negotiates differently. He sleeps differently. He does not need every room to save him. He does not need every doubter to clap. He can hear rejection without collapsing because one closed door does not threaten his survival. That is the first law. Money is stored choice, but options disappear when income enters and nothing remains. Law 2. Income is not wealth. Income enters, wealth remains. This is where many men humiliate themselves without noticing it. They increase income, then increase lifestyle. They get a raise, then upgrade the prison. Better clothes, better restaurants, better subscriptions, better image, same fragility. This is not progress. It is decorated dependence. A man can look improved and still be owned. He can wear better fabric and still panic when the car breaks down. He can sit in better restaurants and still have no emergency fund. He can post signs of success and still be one missed paycheck away from begging. The image improved. The foundation did not. Wealth begins when money survives contact with your lifestyle. The question is not, how much did I make? The question is, how much did I keep, direct, grow, and protect? A man who earns $3,000 and keeps $500 has more command than a man who earns $10,000 and bleeds $10,500. This is not moral judgment. This is structural reality. Income can make you visible. Wealth makes you harder to control. The income illusion is seductive because income gives immediate emotional reward. You feel bigger. You feel validated. You feel like the world has finally admitted something about you, so you celebrate too early. You buy the proof before you have built the base. You confuse being paid with being positioned. But income without retention is a river with no reservoir. It moves through you. It does not belong to you. It only visits. This is why many men stay trapped even after they earn more. They do not build wealth. They build a more expensive dependency system. Their obligations rise with their income. Their ego signs contracts their discipline cannot support. Then they wonder why more money did not create more peace. The second law kills the income illusion. You are not free because money comes in. You are free when enough money stays under your command. And this is the first private test of financial sovereignty. Can you receive more without becoming easier to manipulate by comfort? Can you increase income without increasing weakness? Can you let money enter your life without allowing your appetite to vote first? If you are the kind of man who knows he needs more than public advice, stop mistaking free consumption for private transformation. You already know more information is not your real problem. Your real problem is execution under pressure, structure when nobody is watching, and a system that forces your money to obey your future instead of your mood. If you keep collecting ideas without changing behavior, you will remain the man who understands power in theory but leaks it in practice. Inside Patreon, you get deeper, unfiltered breakdowns on money, discipline, leverage, status, and self-command, so you can turn insight into a private operating system. This is not for spectators. It is for men who are done being owned by confusion. The decision is yours. But what decides whether money stays? Cash flow. Law 3. Cash flow is the battlefield. Every month is a battle between discipline and impulse. Rent is not the enemy. Food is not the enemy. Survival costs are not the enemy. The enemy is unconscious leakage, small purchases, forgotten subscriptions, convenience meals, status spending, digital dopamine, emotional upgrades. Buying relief because you are tired, ashamed, lonely, or angry. Your bank statement is not a financial document. It is psychological evidence. It shows what you worship when nobody is watching. This is where most beginners expose themselves without saying a word. They claim they want freedom, but their spending says they want relief. They claim they want power, but their subscriptions say they want distraction. They claim they are building a fortress, but every month their money goes to boredom, insecurity, convenience, and the need to look stronger than they are. If your money constantly disappears, do not ask where it went. Ask which emotion commanded it. Was it loneliness? Did you spend because silence was uncomfortable? Was it shame? Did you buy something to feel like you were not behind? Was it anger? Did you punish your future because the present felt unfair? Was it exhaustion? Did you spend because discipline felt impossible after a day of being treated as replaceable? This is why cash flow is not only accounting, it is self-exposure. It reveals where your declared identity loses to your private impulses. The beginner tracks expenses to save money. The strategist tracks expenses to expose himself. Because once the leak is visible, it can no longer hide behind excuses. You cannot command what you refuse to see. You cannot repair what you romanticize. You cannot build sovereignty while defending the habits that keep you dependent. A man who refuses to examine his cash flow is not protecting his dignity. He is protecting his weakness from evidence. The battlefield is not dramatic. It is quiet. It happens in small decisions. It happens when nobody claps for restraint. It happens when the purchase is affordable but unnecessary. It happens when your future needs capital and your present wants comfort. It happens when your ego whispers that you deserve it and your structure asks whether your future can afford your mood. Most men do not need more motivation. They need fewer leaks. But the most dangerous leak is not spending. It is debt. Law 4. Debt is future. Labor sold early. Debt is not always evil. Used intelligently, it can build assets, education, business capacity, or long-term advantage. Used with calculation, it can help a man acquire something that produces more than it costs. But used emotionally, debt is tomorrow's labor sold to protect today's weakness. Credit cards. Buy now, pay later. Personal loans. Financing a lifestyle before building a base. The trap is simple. Debt gives you the feeling of power before you have earned the structure of power. That is why it seduces beginners. It lets a man appear ahead while quietly making him owned. Debt is dangerous because it can imitate progress. It can make you look more stable than you are. It can make you feel more capable than your habits prove. It can give your ego a costume and send the bill to your future. But the future always collects. If your future paycheck already belongs to past decisions, you are not working for yourself. You are working for the man you used to be. And that man may have been tired. He may have been impulsive. He may have been insecure. He may have been desperate to look like he was winning. He may have been trying to silence shame for one weekend. But now your present self has to obey the contracts he signed. This is the brutal part. Debt does not care why you borrowed. Interest does not care that you were hurt. Fees do not care that you were tired. The lender does not care that you were trying to feel respected. The system only asks whether you signed. That is why low debt literacy is so expensive. The research from Anna Maria Lusardi and Peter Tufano matters here because it confirms what strategic men already suspect. When people do not understand debt, they tend to use higher cost borrowing and incur higher fees. In plain language, ignorance becomes a revenue stream for someone else. Your confusion becomes their income. Your panic becomes their business model. Your lack of structure becomes tribute. The fourth law is brutal. Do not let your weakest moment sign contracts your future self must obey. Before debt, ask what it buys. Does it buy an asset, a skill, a productive tool, or time for a calculated move? Or does it buy image, relief, convenience, and the illusion that you are ahead? Before debt, ask who owns your next paycheck if you say yes. Before debt, ask whether the man signing is strategic or emotional. Because a man who sells tomorrow to decorate today should not be shocked when tomorrow arrives empty. And once tomorrow arrives empty, he becomes easy to command. That is how money starts making decisions for him. He does not choose the job, he chooses the payment. He does not choose the city, he chooses the rent. He does not choose the opportunity. He chooses whatever buys him one more month of survival. He does not speak freely. He calculates consequences from a position of fear. This is not freedom. This is financial capture disguised as adulthood. So how does a man build resistance against future panic? He saves. Law 5. Saving is self-respect in numbers. Saving is not fear. Saving is self-command made visible. Weak men mock saving because they confuse restraint with smallness. They think a man proves power by spending, upgrading, showing, displaying, consuming, and making his life look larger than his foundation. But that is not power. That is performance. And performance becomes expensive when the man performing has no reserve behind the mask. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau explains that emergency savings are for unplanned expenses outside normal monthly spending. That sounds simple, almost too simple, but psychologically it is a fortress. A man with no emergency fund has no buffer between pressure and surrender. One car repair, one medical bill, one missed paycheck, one family emergency, one delayed client payment. Suddenly he is borrowing, begging, selling, panicking, or returning to people who already doubted him. This is why savings are not just money. Savings are silence under pressure. Savings are the ability to absorb impact without collapsing. Savings are proof that your future self has authority over your present appetite. You do not save because life is safe. You save because life is not safe. You save because the world does not pause its demands when you feel overwhelmed. You save because landlords do not care about your motivation. Lenders do not care about your dreams. Emergencies do not ask whether this is a good time. Pressure arrives without respect for your plans. The unsupported man must understand this deeply. If you have no one coming to rescue you, then your savings become the rescue before the rescue is needed. They become the person you wish would show up. They become the voice that says, "You have time. Do not panic. Do not beg. Do not accept the first bad offer." That is why saving is not weakness. Saving is refusing to become emotionally available to pressure. A man with savings is harder to rush, harder to shame, harder to trap, harder to corner. He can take a breath before he answers. He can negotiate without trembling. He can leave a bad room without needing that room to approve of his exit. Machiavelli said, "It is much safer to be feared than loved when you cannot be both." Apply that inwardly. Your impulses should not feel loved. They should feel governed. Your appetite should not believe it can walk into your future and take whatever it wants. Your boredom should not believe it can vote on your savings. Your insecurity should not believe it can use your paycheck to buy temporary respect. Your loneliness should not believe it can drain the fortress because silence feels heavy. The beginner saves whatever is left. The strategist saves before the battlefield begins. This difference is not small. If you wait until the end of the month to save, you are letting every impulse argue its case first. You are letting convenience, exhaustion, image, and desire sit at the table before your future self arrives. By the time the future enters the room, the money is already gone. Give your future authority first. When money arrives, assign it, direct it, divide it, command it before the weakest part of you begins negotiating. Because money that arrives without orders will obey your lowest emotion. But once a man can save, the next trap appears. He thinks discipline alone will make him rich. It will not. Law 6. Investing rewards. Patience, not ego. Most beginners do not want to invest. They want to escape. They want the one asset, the one stock, the one coin, the one trade, the one move that rescues them from years of ordinary discipline. They want a shortcut that gives them the status of a strategic man without requiring the patience of one. That desire makes them easy prey. Real investing is colder. It respects time, risk, diversification, fees, and consistency. The Securities and Exchange Commission describes diversification as spreading money among investments to reduce risk. That is not exciting. That is why it works. The ego wants a dramatic win. Patience wants a repeatable system. The ego wants a story it can tell. Patience wants a structure it can survive. The ego wants to be seen as early, clever, different, chosen, and ahead of the crowd. Patience does not care how it looks. Patience cares what remains after volatility tests the plan. This is where many men confuse ambition with gambling. They do not want to build wealth. They want a financial event that finally proves they were right. They want to turn one risky move into revenge against everyone who doubted them. They want the market to become a courtroom where their pain is vindicated. But the market does not care about your emotional biography. The market does not know your childhood. It does not know who abandoned you. It does not know who laughed at your goals. It does not know how many nights you felt behind your peers. It does not know that you are tired of being treated like potential instead of proof. It responds to structure, risk, timing, value, liquidity, patience, incentives, and behavior. That is why investing punishes the man who arrives desperate. Desperation needs speed. Investing rewards time. Desperation needs certainty. Investing demands risk management. Desperation needs emotional relief. Investing requires emotional distance. Desperation asks, what can make me rich fast? The strategist asks, what system can survive my ignorance, volatility, and time? Buffett did not become Buffett by worshipping noise. He became a symbol of compounding because he understood that time rewards disciplined capital more reliably than emotional prediction. He learned money behavior early. He respected the machine before he commanded large capital. That is the lesson. The power was not only in the money, the power was in the rules governing the money. Most beginners chase returns before they understand risk. They ask what can multiply, but not what can destroy. They ask what other people are buying, but not why they are buying it. They ask where the excitement is, but not where the incentives are. They ask how fast it can rise, but not how fast they can lose control of themselves when it falls. This is why ego investing is dangerous. It does not only risk money, it reveals a man who still needs the world to hurry up and confirm his identity. If you need one investment to prove you are not ordinary, you are already emotionally compromised. Investing is not where you prove you are a genius. It is where you prove you can obey reality longer than your emotions can scream. The beginner wants rescue. The strategist wants a system. And this is where a man must become brutally honest. If you cannot save consistently, you are not ready to invest aggressively. If you cannot read basic terms, you are not ready to chase complex products. If you cannot tolerate boredom, you are not ready for compounding. If you cannot admit what you do not understand, you are already exposed. Investing rewards humility disguised as discipline. It rewards the man who can say, I do not need to look brilliant this month. I need to remain solvent, informed, consistent, and positioned over time. That kind of man becomes harder to manipulate because he is no longer addicted to sudden rescue. But even if you earn, save, and invest, you can still be destroyed if you do not protect. Law 7. Protection is part of power. A fortress is not complete because it has treasure. It is complete because it has walls. Protection means emergency savings. Protection means passwords and two-factor authentication. Protection means not sending money under pressure. Protection means understanding scams. Protection means insurance where necessary. Protection means reading terms before signing. Protection means knowing that every promise of high reward with no risk should be treated like a predator wearing perfume. Investor.gov warns investors to beware of promises of high returns with little or no risk. That is not paranoia. That is strategic hygiene. Weak men get seduced by opportunity. Strong men inspect incentives. This is where financial literacy becomes more than earning and investing. It becomes defense against exploitation. Because the more desperate a man is to escape his current rank, the easier he becomes to manipulate. The scammer does not need you to be stupid. He only needs you to be hungry, rushed, ashamed, or emotionally tired. He only needs you to believe that this one move will save you. He only needs you to skip the question, who benefits if I am rushed? Who profits if I do not understand? Who gains power if I sign before I think? A man without protection is not only vulnerable to thieves, he is vulnerable to his own hope. And hope, when it is not disciplined by verification, becomes an open gate. This is why protection must be part of power. Not because you should live afraid, because you should live awake. Read the terms, check the source, verify the claim. Slow down when someone pressures you to move fast. Never confuse urgency with truth. Never confuse confidence with credibility. Never confuse complexity with intelligence. Never confuse someone else's wealth display with proof of their integrity. The financially naive man asks, "Can this help me?" The strategist asks, "What can this cost me if I'm wrong?" That question alone can save years of labor. Protection also means protecting your access, your accounts, your documents, your passwords, your identity, your ability to recover if something breaks. Because what you cannot access, you cannot command. What you cannot verify, you cannot trust. What you cannot protect, you do not truly control. Many men want to talk about power while living with open gates. Weak passwords, no records, no emergency plan, no insurance where needed, no clear view of debt, no understanding of financial terms, no defense against scams, no separation between emotion and transaction. That is not masculine realism. That is negligence wearing confidence. The seventh law is this: what you cannot protect, you do not truly control. And when you finally control money, something deeper changes. Law 8. Financial literacy becomes leverage. This is where financial literacy stops being personal finance and becomes power. Once you control money, you can buy time to build skills. Once you have savings, you can negotiate without trembling. Once you understand debt, you stop selling your future cheaply. Once you understand investing, you stop chasing every loud opportunity. Once you understand protection, you become harder to exploit. Once you understand cash flow, you stop confusing motion with progress. This is how the unsupported man changes rank. Not by begging family to believe, not by explaining his ambition to friends who benefit from his doubt, not by pretending money does not matter because he is too spiritual, too proud, or too wounded to admit he wants freedom. He builds financial evidence, and evidence changes the conversation. This is the part most men resist because it strips away fantasy. You cannot argue your way into being respected. You cannot explain your way into leverage. You cannot demand to be treated like a strategic man while your financial life proves you are still governed by impulse. Proof changes what words cannot. When you have money under command, you are no longer only a worker hoping someone chooses you. You are a builder with options. You can invest in skills. You can fund experiments. You can survive rejection. You can take calculated risks. You can leave exploitative rooms. You can negotiate because you are not negotiating from hunger. That is leverage. Leverage means you are not forced to accept every bad trade. Leverage means your life contains alternatives. Leverage means other people cannot easily use your desperation against you. Leverage means you can wait, choose, refuse, build, and reposition. Money does not make you superior, but financial literacy makes you less available to control. That difference matters. The immature man wants money, so people will admire him. The strategic man wants command, so people cannot easily own him. The immature man wants status symbols. The strategic man wants exit options. The immature man wants applause. The strategic man wants applause. The immature man wants revenge. The strategic man wants independence. Here is the cold truth. Financial literacy is not about loving money. It is about refusing to let ignorance, pressure, and dependency command your life. Money does not care about your pain. Debt does not care about your potential. Inflation does not care about your excuses. Scammers do not care that you are a good person. Employers do not care that you feel trapped. The market does not reward what you meant to do. It responds to structure, value, proof, timing, leverage, and risk. That is why the financially literate man becomes harder to control. He does not need every room to accept him. He does not need every doubter to understand him. He does not need applause before he builds. He can move quietly because his life has financial defenses. And when the world tests him, he does not collapse immediately. He has cash, he has rules, he has skills, he has patience, he has options. If you are a man building without permission, stop calling passive watching progress. You already know money matters. But your problem is not awareness. Your problem is that too much of your life still has no private system behind it. If you keep learning without installing rules, you will become a man who can explain sovereignty while remaining dependent. Inside Patreon, you get deeper, unfiltered lessons, private operating principles, and strategic breakdowns on money, discipline, leverage, and power, so you can turn scattered ambition into command. This is not for men looking for entertainment. It is for the man who is ready to be measured by what he builds. The decision is yours. So stop seeing yourself as a man trying to get better with money. That language is too soft. You are building a private state. Your income is the territory. Your budget is the law. Your savings are the fortress. Your skills are the army. Your investments are the farms. Your protection is the wall. Your debt is either a tool or an invader. And your ignorance is the traitor inside the gates. Machiavelli did not write for men who wanted comfort. He wrote for men who understood that power without foundations collapses. Your financial life is the same. You do not need to be rich to begin. You need to stop being financially readable. You need to stop being predictable under pressure. You need to stop letting every emotion vote on your money. You need to stop mistaking income for command. The old belief was this: when I make more money, I will become free. The strategic belief is this: when I command the money I already touch, I become the kind of man who can handle more. That is the identity shift. From spender to commander, from earner to builder, from worker with hope to strategist with options, from financially naive to financially sovereign. And this leaves one question. If your money revealed your real level of discipline, what would it say about you tonight? Not what you post, not what you claim, not what you plan. What would your last 30 days of spending say? Would it say you are building a fortress? Or would it say you are still paying tribute to boredom, insecurity, convenience, and the need to look stronger than you are? This is where the beginner starts. Not with shame, with evidence. Tonight, do 3 things. First, write down every source of income. Second, write down every fixed expense, every debt, every minimum payment, every subscription, and every leak. Third, choose one command for your next paycheck before it arrives, not after. Before. Because money that arrives without orders will obey your weakest impulse. And a man who cannot command a paycheck cannot command a future. Financial literacy for beginners is not a class. It is the first act of rebellion against dependency. It is how an unsupported man stops waiting for permission and starts building the one thing no doubter can argue with: proof. But understand this: money only gives you defense. Skill gives you offense. A man with savings but no rare ability is protected, but he is not yet powerful. Protection keeps you alive. Skill makes you dangerous in the market. Proof makes you expensive to ignore. Leverage makes you difficult to replace. So do not stop at saving. Do not stop at tracking. Do not stop at avoiding debt. Use financial literacy as the base layer. Then build the skill, the evidence, the reputation, and the options that make your life harder to command from the outside. Comment. Money will not own me if you are ready to build financial sovereignty. No permission, no rescue fantasy, no more tribute to ignorance. Learn money. Command money. Build anyway.